beautiful souls. It's Robin, and you're listening to the Live Life Balance podcast. I'm so excited that you dropped by today, prioritizing you and your wellness. This podcast is for my empty nester mamas, women who are getting close to this new chapter, who have dipped one toe in, or who are fully embracing this new phase. This is for the mamas who are ready to take back their health, to live their best lives. If you're looking for an authentic, supportive community, you're definitely in the right place. It's a space for us to learn how to prioritize ourselves again. I'll be your guide, pointing you to ideas and tools that you can experiment with to see what feels good for you. You'll also hear guests talking about their journeys and what's worked for them. Together, we're going to learn how to use the 1% shift method to create little shifts and habits that, who knows, maybe become your non-negotiables to feel your best. By feeling our best, we can show up in our purpose and live the most joyful life, even in the challenging times. And boy, this new chapter can seem challenging, but I can assure you we're not alone. Some of the topics we're going to talk about are self-love, self-care, nutrition, daily toxins, food swaps, mindset, and reframing our thoughts. I hope you leave each time feeling a little more empowered and at ease to take a step or two that will allow you to shine. Are you ready? If you said yes, take a nice deep breath and say, I am ready. Now let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I know that you guys are going to love this conversation with Amber Susa. She's an entrepreneur. She's a fitness expert. She's a spiritual coach and teacher. She's a Reiki healer. She's an inspirational speaker and writer. She's the founder and owner of Allomi, which is a holistic health and healing space bringing together movement, meditation, and mindfulness. She currently lives in California with her children, Dawson and Will. Growing up as an actress and a dancer, Amber was naturally drawn to creative expression, storytelling, and performing. She most recently performed her one-woman show called Waking Up to All of Me in the Hollywood Fringe Festival and is currently writing her first book, Born to Be All of Me. She has spent the last 2 decades in the fitness and wellness industry and has been an entrepreneur for the last 12 years. After becoming a mother to 2 beautiful children, she suffered from severe lower back pain, which led her to a meditation practice and spiritual journey that has helped her discover her life purpose and become the woman she was born to be. Amber's passionate about guiding others back to their own innate and intuitive knowing and helping them to come into alignment with their most authentic self. Y'all, we talked about everything all over the place, from holistic health to healing in the arts to the mind-body connection. We talked about meditation. We talked about setting boundaries. We talked about authenticity and just coming home to yourself. So I know that you guys are going to get something out of this episode, and I look forward to hearing what you actually got out of it. So without further ado, let's get into it. Amazing. So welcome, Amber. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Robin. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. She's actually on the West Coast, so she's up bright and early today for us. So we appreciate that. I just want to start out. I always like to start out just by telling a little bit of your story and how you got to where you are today, and what you see as little stepping stones you've taken.
Okay. Well, we were starting to chat a little bit about how I ended up, on this path that I'm currently on, about 9 years ago, when my son was born and my daughter was 22 months, so almost 2. For me, at the time I owned a fitness studio. And so my health and wellness pretty much was about working out really hard. Like that was kind of, my focus. And our studio was all about high intensity Pilates, high intensity fitness. And when I had my son, I started having like really severe and debilitating low back pain. And up to that point, I had never had any kind of physical limitations. Like I was a gymnast growing up. I was a dancer growing up. I was incredibly active. And so this was something that was really scary for me because I had always relied on my physical body to help me cope, help me deal with, the stresses of life, I would just go to the gym and work out, or, so that's kind of where I was at in my life. And I had my son, and I woke up 40 years old and I literally could not move. I mean, it was like a stabbing pain in my lower back. And long story short, it led me to a meditation practice and a journey that's all about holistic health and healing. I will also mention, for those people in your audience who they think of meditation and it freaks them out, because I was that person for sure. Like, I had tried meditation one time in my early 20s and I hated it. Like, I literally was like, this is not for me.
It's so funny you say that, because I think so many people have that experience, myself included. I tried it years ago because, but it's when you don't know or understand it well, you don't know what you're actually looking for, or how it actually works, or how it can work. And there's so many, I'm so fascinated by all the different types of meditation. And just like health and wellness, it's not a one size fits all. It's, what works for you. For me, I love visualization. I don't know why. It's just, that's what clicked with me to kind of get me on the road. And there are some that I still like experiment with, where I'm like, that does not suit me. It doesn't fit, it's not for me right now, currently where I'm at. So I think it's for some people who are new to the whole concept of meditation, it's trying to find one that feels right for you, where you're at on your journey right now. So, and I want to go back up just for a second, because I could only imagine like that feeling for you when you've relied on something your whole life to be your outlet, to be your stress management, to just be part of your life, right? It was a habit you created. And when something like that is pulled away from you due to, a limitation within your body, that has to be frightening, because it makes you start wondering, what will my life look like without that, or how? So before you found meditation, I'm just curious, did you go to different people? Did you seek out medical care? Did you not find the answers there, and that's what led you to meditation? Like, how did you get from not feeling well to running into like meditation as a solution?
Right. Yes. Good question. Yes, to answer you, it was terrifying for me to have something that I had relied on to be pulled out, from underneath me. And I went to like chiropractors. I went to like doctors, and I had MRIs done. I mean, I did all of those things for sure. And then it kind of came to me, the meditation. I wasn't looking for a holistic remedy at the time. My solution had always been like, go harder, push harder. So I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine who was also in the fitness industry. And I was sharing with her about what I was going through. And she had started doing the Oprah Winfrey, Deepak Chopra 21-day meditation experiences. And she said, they just started this new 21-day. It's a free one. Like, you should try it. It's all about stress relief and healing. And, of course I was like, oh my God, I tried that years ago and hated it. But I was forced to be open-minded because I wasn't finding any relief. I did not like, I think I had a doctor, do the MRI and like say, yes. I mean, they said, yes, you have some structural abnormalities. There's some stenosis, or there's some degeneration, right, from all the years of dancing and being a gymnast. And so there was, and they said we could do like an epidural, or we could, we talked about those kinds of things. And I did do some chiropractic work, some light chiropractic work. I also went to like a physical therapist, and they gave me some, physical exercises that I could do based on what they saw in the MRI. I never ended up getting any kind of, I didn't do an epidural, or I didn't do, is that what it's called? An epidural? Or
Yeah.
yeah. I'm thinking like, that's what when you have a
Yeah.
baby, but yeah, that's also what it. So, but the other thing so I will also share, at the same time I had this conversation with my friend about meditation, another friend of mine told me about a book he had read, and it's called Healing Back Pain, the Mind Body Connection by Dr. John Sarno. And so I look back on it now that I'm on this journey, and I can see how I was being supported and I was being guided into this holistic a perspective, because these both came to me. And I'll share this quickly. One of the things that I read in this book that absolutely floored me was Dr. Sarno talks about how there had been many studies, and many people who had structural abnormalities like disc degeneration and stenosis and inflammation, some of them had pain and some of them had no pain. And so it was like, what's the differentiator? Like what is the thing that's causing the pain, and why do some people? So his point was, it's not necessarily the structural abnormality that's causing the severity of the pain, because there were people that had definite structural abnormalities, definite like degeneration, who weren't experiencing the kind of debilitating pain that I was experiencing. So he introduced this concept of TMS, tension myositis syndrome. And it's the theory that repressed anxiety, repressed anger can cause muscle spasms and severe pain in the body. Now, I will tell you also that I have considered myself, and I am the ultimate optimist. Like, I don't consider myself an angry person. Like I'm like the one that's looking for the good. And so when I read that, I was like, anger, repressed anger. So I did a lot of soul searching about what was underneath this, So I started the meditation practice with Oprah and Deepak Chopra. You talk about different meditation styles. That one, the guided meditation, where they were talking, and there was a topic, there was a theme. That was my way in. Gotcha. Listening to somebody else guide me.
Right. So when the visualization, I guess that's yes. part of it, because they're talking you through. It's not just yes. a bunch of sounds. It's not just quiet. There's something that you are weirdly, you're actively using your brain, but you're present. Yeah. And that's yes. what, to me, the definition of meditation is just being present and kind of cutting out the noise of all the other stuff around you, which I could be wrong, but that's just how I look at it. And then while you're in that present moment, that could look very different. But thank you, first of all, for sharing your story, because your story, I would have to imagine, resonates with a lot of people, myself included. And I'm thinking through like some of the things in my personal life. And I had this situation years ago where I had debilitating pain that I couldn't like lift my leg. It was a very bizarre, like I'd get out of the car and I'd have to kind of like drag my leg. It was just constant pain. And same like you, I had gone to every doctor, everything, and it was to the point where I was like running out of options. And my husband called me one day and he said, I just was talking to one of my dealers, and they said, car dealership. He said, they have this like old family person, this family history. They've used this lady for a really long time. I said, well, what is it? Is it like needles? And he said, no, it's needleless. There's no like there's nothing. And I said, whatever. I mean, I'll try anything. So
right, exactly.
On a Saturday, he was like, okay, well, I'm going to take you. So I said, well, this is when our kids were little. So we all went. And as we're driving kind of, we live in Florida, but country is what I call it, but it's like this back road, like weird. And I said, I have this feeling we're not going to like a place of business. And he's like, no, she's older. She was in practice for many years, but she retired. So we're going to her house. So I was like, okay. So we ended up in the Ocala National Forest. Like she lived, and we get out this lady must have been in her 80s. The sweetest lady. We walked into, she had, I don't know if it was like a module type home or whatever. And so we walked in the front and she just had like a chair and a couch, and it was so sweet. And she had me sit down in this recliner chair that was like probably 500 years old. And she started like poking my feet and doing all this stuff. And of course it was hysterical because there was like a couch to the side. So my husband and my two kids were sitting there, and they're just kind of looking. And I'm thinking, oh Lord, this is not going to work. Like, what is this? This is crazy. And she had me do a couple of things. Honestly, it was, I would have to say probably more on the lines of reflexology mixed up with, I don't know what, like some kind of energy healing. I'm not really sure. Okay. And then she said, throw away your flip-flops. Don't ever let me see you wearing flip-flops again, because something about like in between your two toes is your like neck muscle. So it pulls on everything. And so then she said, stand up and see how it feels. And so I stood up, and it was, I mean, I had been suffering for months. I stood up, I had no pain. Wow. And I was able to lift my legs, and my whole family knew like how torturous it had been for me. But we were all like kind of in disbelief of like, how is that possible? And so, you know, I went back to her for many years, and I referred lots of people to her. You know, I called her my witch doctor. Mm-hmm. But that really got my mind curious as to like, what was that, and how did that help, and how did it heal, you know? And I think when you do have like the anger and the anxiety and things that are in your subconscious that you're not even aware of, it almost makes like energy blocks, you know, like stagnation through the body. And so it's like releasing that to allow the energy to flow through your body, you know, and again, all of these things, for anybody listening, these are all little tools that is bio individual, and you have to try them on, and you have to find what works for you. And when you're not feeling well and you get to that point, you start trying anything and everything. Exactly. Because nothing's helped so far. So really, like for me, I was like, what do I have to lose? I mean, she's not going to stick me with a needle. She's not injecting me with any kind of medication. So what do I have to lose? And that was like a huge pivot for me. And so I could see, you know, when you started down that road, and I tried out that meditation. I think I did like a 7-day years ago. And again, it's that talking through. Yeah. And I just love Deepak anyways, but, and Oprah. So that was a bonus to hear both of them. Right. Yeah. For sure. So keep going. Sorry. I wanted to just side note. No,
I love that. I love that story.
It's important to share that.
It really is. Yeah.
There are lots and lots and lots of alternative things, if you're willing and open to see them and to try them on, and not be frustrated when something might not work, you know, and just notice that that's not a good fit for you at the moment, and then keep going on the journey to find. I believe we don't stumble into like things for no reason. You know, we're here for a certain particular journey, and that will open up other opportunities. So
absolutely. No, I love that story, because in both of our experiences, it was really, we had to get to a place of surrender, because we were so desperate to get out of our pain. So it opened us to, you know, possibilities that we might have not been open to unless we would have been in such pain. And I did not have that belief at the time, but I do now, that our bodies are always talking to us, and that our bodies are really, even though it doesn't always feel like this, like our greatest allies in wanting to bring us back to a place of balance and peace and health. And so I love that. And yes, I have also come to believe, and I do energy healing now. I'm a Reiki practitioner, but that we are energy, and emotions are energy. And yes, because they are in our subconscious, we don't have awareness about it. And then all of a sudden something happens in our body, and we're like, what's going on? And it is an indication that there is something happening, most likely in your subconscious, whether it's a repressed emotion or suppressed emotions, or, you know, being out of alignment with who you really are.
So when that got, you know, when you saw that statement in the book, and you started to question like the anger portion, because to me, again, I just in the small amount of time I've known you and even just talking to you, you do exude very positive energy and a positive nature. So I
Right.
could see how that would be like, what, like, what is that? And so when you read that and you started questioning, what were some of the methods or tools or that you use to kind of uncover some of that? Because I know lots of us have, whether we know it or not, we do have this subconscious stuff going on. And so when we finally make light of something, when we're pointed to something, and then it makes us really have to scratch our head and kind of back up a little bit and do a little bit of that uncovering, people don't know what to do, and so
Mhm.
what are some of the things you did in order to understand where that might have come from and then what to do with it?
So
Or was there one particular thing?
the thing is it kind of feels like meditation led me down a path where it just naturally unfolded.
Okay.
Like, I feel like meditation was my reintroduction to the voice of my soul. Now, that might turn some people off if that is not in their belief system, but that's my experience. It felt like I had lost touch with my deepest essence
Mm-hmm.
because I had, I mean, that's a whole other,
Right.
codependent relationships,
Right.
self-abandonment with, addictions. And I mean, there's all kinds of ways that we abandon who we are. And I really have come to, because I do a lot of coaching with women as well, and I've come to see that it is my story and it is many, many women's stories that we abandon ourselves. And we
100%.
don't even realize that's what we're doing. So we're living
Mm-hmm.
this life that is not our truth. And so we're out of alignment.
Right.
And there's to use the word anger, because that's the word that he used. Like, once I kind of realized that, there is some anger that rises to the surface. Like, what the heck? Like, I've completely betrayed myself in all these different ways. And so for me, it really was less about understanding why I was angry or why, and more about really nurturing my relationship with my soul, my deepest self, my truest self. And then I just started to get really excited because I was rediscovering myself, and I was like, oh, there I am,
Wow, where have I been?
Yeah, exactly.
No, so much of what you're saying is just like my energy is like lighting up, because men and women are very different, but with women, I feel like we do sell ourselves out a lot and a
Mhm.
lot more, or just in a different way, whether it's to a relationship, whether it's to a job, whether it's to, our family and our, children. And not all of them are bad things. It's just a matter of going unconscious and not understanding that you can marry the two together. You can be your authentic self and you can do all the other things. And I think for
Yeah.
a lot of women, which we were talking about beforehand, like the people I work with, they are coming into this phase of life where even if they've had a full-time job, even if they've had a part-time job, even if they've been a stay-at-home mom, when the kids start to fly the coop, whether they're driving, whether they're just pulling away, because that's a natural process. It's the unattachment of home so that they can survive out, when they get mature
Right.
enough to go out on their own. But it's like we've done so much and we've poured so much into them and to our families and to our jobs and to all these other things, and we've literally forgotten about ourselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, you might go to the gym, or yeah, you might, but you're all of it is just such in a go fashion that
Hmm.
we're not stopping to remember or understand or really get to know who we are. And so I find that a lot of people that I coach and the program I'm working to create is really for those people who are ready. They're ready to figure out how to live a more balanced life. They're ready to, rediscover themselves. They're ready to like understand how to come back to homeostasis, to self, to all the things to
Hmm.
create the best wellness that they can have.
Right.
And Reiki could be part of it, and other coaching could be part of it. And it's not a one-stop shop for everything. It's about finding someone you resonate with, going with them, picking the pieces. And I think that's something I learned on my journey, is that not any doctor has all the answers, whether they're Western, whether they're Eastern. It just doesn't happen, because everybody's bio-individual. They have a different constitution and makeup, and their childhood was different, and their traumas are different. And it's like, there's just not a one size fits anybody. And so I love what you do, because again, Reiki was something new to me a couple of years ago, but it really was part of my healing journey. And so if you would talk just a little bit about Reiki in the sense of it being a tool that someone might be able to use when they're trying to unravel and figure themselves out again.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, I just want to mention, to kind of go back to what we were talking about as far as how women have historically, kind of sacrificed themselves. So we also have to understand that this is a new time that we're living in. Like, our mothers and our grandmothers and their mothers, you would hear people say, "Oh my God, she's the best mother. She's so selfless." Right? Like, it was like, that's what you did. And that was admirable. It wasn't part of the conversation that my mom's generation and her mom's generation were having, where they were saying, we need to live our most authentic life, and we need to, be connected to our true soul self. I mean, it just wasn't. It's just the way that it was then. And so for this time that we're living in, we're moving into a different consciousness, where this is an opportunity that we have to say, like, oh yeah, I can be an amazing mom, and I could also have my own business, or follow my heart. Like, I wrote and performed a one-woman show recently about my healing journey, like going back full circle to the stage. That's where I spent a lot of my youth, following my heart, following the desires of my heart. This is an opportunity that we have. And many of us have these voices like, that's selfish, I can't do that, so understandably there's resistance. And so the women that come to me, the women that come to you, they have this desire for more. They know that there's something else that's calling to them, but they're also up against this conditioning that we've all grown up in. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because that's
and it's so
very
great.
common theme.
Yeah. And it's so spot on. And so interesting to me that, going back to like our mothers and stuff, thinking about like really who our moms were and what they, did my mom really like her job, or did she just do the job? Did she, when she stayed at home with us for a little bit, and then she went back to work when I was, I don't know, older, like middle or maybe fifth grade or something. But did she do it just out of necessity, or did she pick something she really loved, or did she just do a job to do a job? And it's interesting, because as a mother now, like you said, we are growing up, or we grew up, and we are in a different era, but it's now our responsibility to help our girls or children, if you have boys too, but and just having this conversation with them recently, as I've gone through some of my stuff, is that what really lights you up? Like, what are you passionate about? What is like calling you? Where do you think you can serve people? And will that change? Yeah, it changes decade. Every decade, I feel like we kind of shed layers, and we kind of figure out who we are again and all of that. But I don't want my kids to go to school just to get a degree, to get a job, because they think that's what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
And so, but that's different. That's a totally different conversation. Because when I grew up, it was like, you've got to go to college, because that piece of paper means something. And if you don't have that paper, you're going to get, and it passed up. And that was something that my dad had an experience with. So he kind of put that, at least, I know every sibling sees things differently within a family, but that was something that really stuck with me, was like, okay, well, if I don't have that piece of paper, I'm never going to get anywhere, because he took a long time to get where he went. because he didn't have that piece of paper. And that's the way he viewed it.
Yeah.
And so that just got passed on. And now I'm like, oh no, like the world is so different. People make up, their own businesses out of absolutely nothing except their passion. And they're successful because it's like, so it's just like you said, we are in such a different new time, and we're trying to figure that out. And it is our responsibility to serve people. And it is our responsibility to help this next generation, who is really the first, I feel like, generation of like technology from the age of in the womb till now, so it's like,
oh yeah, my 10-year-old daughter knows more about how to navigate things than I do.
I'm always like, can you help me with this, can you help me with that? Because they do, and it's like an innate thing for them, but like, how do you balance that, and so it's definitely been a different era of growing up for them, and for us trying to navigate that as parents has also been new. So I'm sure it was probably like that for our parents, because it was probably different. It probably is a generational thing.
Right.
But I do really feel like you are spot on with women of the other generations not really living out their full purpose or living out what they're passionate about. So
it wasn't even, I don't think it was even like a consideration. It was like, this is what you do. But to go back to Deepak Chopra for a minute, I remember listening to him tell a story about how he told his children when they were young. He said, I don't want you to worry about making money. I want you to do, I don't know the exact words, but basically it's like what you just said, like what lights your soul on fire, what lights you up, he calls it your dharma, right? Like your dharma is living your life's purpose, bringing all of your gifts and all of and all of your heart's desires to serve humanity. That's dharma, right? And so he said to his children, this is what I want you to focus on, your dharma, using your gifts, doing what you love, what lights you up. And if you're not financially successful, don't worry, because I will take care of you, but I don't want you to worry about money. Well, his children, he ended up becoming incredibly successful with that mindset. And so it's tricky to kind of zoom out and go, oh, this is really just a belief that I was given. It isn't necessarily the truth, because everybody has a different perspective of what is important. So yes,
correct. I also see like a lot of women, at this 40, 50-year-old age, questioning, what am I doing? What do I want to be again when I grow up? What have I been doing? How has it served me? Yes, now I've got this, it's like, it's almost like when you get to 40 and 50, at least from my experience, it's like the time when your body starts to really wake up, and say like, oh, wait a second, like, I don't have to be in that relationship, or I don't have to let someone do that, or I don't have to, I think they find their voice is what I'm trying to say. Like, I feel like in that age, a lot of people, not everybody, but my wish would be for more people to find that voice and to stop questioning, and having the reframing conversations with themselves about like, who am I to do that? Or why I can't do that? Or I was never good enough for that. Or, it's like a lot of those conversations have to get reframed and squashed down so again, you can, rise up and do what you're called to do. And I do believe that everybody is on this earth with a path and a purpose, and it's up to us to kind of find it, to hear it, to see it, and then learn what to do with it. So
absolutely. And you mentioned something about, relationships or, people in your life. And there are some people, like in your experience, when you were suffering and your husband found this healer, and that was a part of your journey. In my experience, when I was having my awakening and, coming back to myself, the man I was married to, was more of a threat. Like, what's happening? Don't change. Don't. And so I ended up getting a divorce, in June of 2020. And it was one of the most difficult things I've ever been through in my entire life. My kids were little. And I was terrified that I was going to, cause them harm and break up the family. But I was in a relationship that was not honoring me living my most authentic life. And so I just want to put that out there also, because it can be very scary when you start to listen to your inner voice and follow the path that you're feeling called to, because not everybody in your life is going to understand it. And so it's been incredibly important for me to learn to trust that inner voice of mine, and B, to find other people who are also on this path of healing and of journeying back to their most authentic self. And sometimes people stay together and sometimes they don't. And either way, it can be done, and you can get to the other side and you can grow through it. And I am here to say that, 3.5 years later, here I am, and I'm thriving, and I feel the most aligned that I think I ever have with my true self, with my soul, with my dharma, my life purpose, why I'm here.
That's incredible. And it's interesting that you say that, because I get a lot of questions about like boundaries and toxic relationships, and not just within the household, but just wherever that might be, whatever relationships you have. It's not just what's in your home. It's
Yep.
all the people you surround yourself on the outside. And you are right. It's sometimes hard when you start shifting, but others might not be shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And for some time, depending on obviously the person in the relationship and the I guess, what would you say, like the communication style that you have together. I'm not saying that every relationship you have to be spot on and everybody does everything the same exact way, because that would be boring, but
Right.
You've got to have respect for somebody else's path, and
Right.
have respect that it might look different than yours, and that's okay, as
Right.
long as it's something that is allowing you to expand and grow. So if you're not having that expansion and you're in a situation where you feel like it's holding you back, that's the conversation. How do you put those boundaries up? How do you remove people that aren't serving you in a
Right.
nice, kind way, because they haven't really done anything to you per se in a harmful way, but they're just not like on your same path for growth. And so that's, again, another very hard conversation to have with people, because we're people pleasers and we want to make sure nice and everybody's good and all the things, because again, cyclical back in his, time with the mothers growing up and all of that again, that was just something that was seen by a lot of people. And so it's just being okay with, yes, that worked then, but maybe it doesn't work now. And so I feel like this whole healing journey, what keeps resonating with me is just getting curious, having the conversation. You have to talk to yourself. I mean, as crazy or weird as that might sound, you've got to have these conversations with yourself, because you know yourself best and you know what works for you and what doesn't. And when you stay in something, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's an extra, exercise movement, whatever it might be, if it's not serving you well, that you got to talk it out. Like, what are my options? Because you always have options, right? It's just that sometimes we forget that we have the right to have options. And so, I find all of this so fascinating. I find it to be something that really lights me up, because to see people actually making what I call 1% shifts in a slow fashion. And it's not like you woke up, made this discovery, and the next day you were somebody completely different. Right. It's been a 3.5-year journey, which is just the beginning. I mean, you still have so much more in your journey to go through and figure out. And in another 3 years, you might look very different again, and it's allowing that understanding that you will keep evolving as you keep growing, and allowing for all the possibilities to come to you that are really there for you. Because again, something you and I have heard a lot and over is all possibilities do exist. It's just whether we allow them to come into our space, or if we, keep them shut out. So, and that's a choice. That is a choice that we each have. And I think that's super cool. So
yeah, it's the thing that I'm the most excited to talk about.
that's
Like,
awesome.
For sure. And also, I mean, I started this journey in 2014, and I didn't leave my marriage till 2020, and it's now, 2023. So yeah, I mean, it happens in stages. Growth happens in stages, and it doesn't happen overnight. And but I was listening to Kathy Heller's podcast recently, and she was talking about, and I thought this was so profound because it's something that I resonate with, and I also think that many women do. She said that she had this concern in her marriage that she was almost afraid to grow because she was afraid that she would outgrow her husband. And so she kind of kept herself back, right? Held herself back. But she ended up having a conversation with her husband because she was like, I have to get honest with this, and I can't not grow. Like, I can't, she'd already been on this path long enough to know that, holding yourself back from being in alignment with your most authentic, fully expressed self only brings pain. And so she had the conversation, and her husband was totally supportive. And he was like, great, keep growing.
Right.
Do it. You know what I mean? So I think we get so afraid. We just assume that people are like not going to be okay with it, or it's going to, mean the end of something. And it doesn't always mean that, right?
No,
but we have to get to a place where we are important enough to have those difficult conversations and take those risks, because the alternative is to not grow and to live in codependent, people-pleasing energy, and that's just not where I want to live. That's not where any of the women that I'm coaching that are coming to me want to live. And so,
well, and the other thing with that, you're right, that conversation has to be had. But the other thing that people don't understand or have very little understanding about is all of that stuff affects your health and wellness.
Oh,
so
totally.
The health and wellness, and this is something I preach all the time. It is not just the food on your plate. It is all the other things that feed you in an integrative way. And that is relationships, that is self, it is finding joy, it is movement, it is spirituality, it is all the things. And without having all the things balanced or in alignment, but balanced, because it makes for eventual breakdown of the body. And so whether that comes out in pain, sickness, all the other things, there's lots of things that happen. So
absolutely. Yeah.
And then it's just kind of eventually when our body breaks down, that's usually when the wake up kind of happens for some people, or they just have a negative mindset and they just keep living in that pain or sickness or whatever. They don't realize that they can outrun, or not outrun, but they can remodel some of those things. They can, come out of them in a different way with different types of works.
Yeah. So, and like what you and I were talking before we hit record, I think is, with your coaching, your health coaching, oftentimes people come to you and their main goal is like weight loss, for example, right? Like that's kind of the issue. And so it's cool because we all arrive through different.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like some people come and they're like, I want to lose weight, or some people have some sort of illness, or some people like have a breakdown of their body where it's pain. Or it comes through like, a painful relationship. Like we all find this path to holistic health and wellness, our own way. Right. And there's so many modalities and so many tools to choose from that we find what works for us. We find what feels authentic, what resonates with us, So for me, it was meditation. Then I found Reiki. I also, I still teach dance because that lights me up and that brings me joy, and I get to share that with other people. And so that kind of movement is so important.
I love that. And I love that because it shows that it's a variety of things that make up who you are. It's not just one thing or this thing. It's a combination. And I love how you've kind of embraced that, because it's important. And it's important for people to hear that you can have a fulfilling career and be a good mom and have a great relationship with your husband. And is everything perfect? Absolutely not. Are things messy? 100%. Do you have challenges on a daily basis? I can't imagine somebody who doesn't, but that's the mindset part. That's like, well, how do you shift what you see? And something I posted yesterday was, looking at a challenge as an opportunity. It's always an opportunity for growth, whether the growth is going to bring you up or the growth's bringing you down. There's an opportunity there, and whatever you do with it is what, will come to fruition from it. So it's so important to understand that the mind body connection isn't like a one-way road. It's two ways. It's got forks that go off, it's like an interconnected highway, basically.
Absolutely.
So understanding that, I think, helps people to not get frustrated or feel like, oh, this isn't working, because there's lots of other things on the smorgasbord to try, and then see how it goes for you. So with that, though, just on a personal, for you, I know you said meditation, and then you went to Reiki. With those things, what do you think for somebody new who's just kind of starting out, maybe this journey, like when they come to you, some people come to you, they don't have any of those experiences in their pocket. They don't even really know maybe what they are. What are like one or two small little things that somebody could walk away with today to start trying on, or to just get curious about?
Okay, great. I love that. Two things I think that came to me when you were just talking about how, like, the perspective of seeing how things could be an opportunity. The quote, Oprah Winfrey's quote about, like, everything's happening for me versus everything is happening to me. So I think no matter what you're going through in your life, you could either see it as, okay, how could this possibly be happening for me? How could this be happening to help me grow, to help me, be happier, be more joyful, be healthier, like, as opposed to, why is this happening to me? That shift in your mindset and just in the way that you're looking at life is huge.
Okay. So that's definitely the first.
That's number one. And then number two, oftentimes when I'm coaching somebody, I ask them questions about, when's the last time you felt joy? And what is it that you were doing, experiencing, that brought you joy? Sometimes people actually have a really hard time remembering, which makes me sad, because I feel like we should be experiencing joy every day, but it's pretty common. So I try to help people connect back into their joy and to sprinkle that into their day. Like, and it does, I think people think like, oh my God, it has to be all or nothing. Like, I have to quit my job and I have to do this whole other thing and I have to go from 0 to 100. It's like, no, like, what is something that brings you joy? Whatever.
The mundane things, not going to Disney World, not going on a trip to Europe. Like, it is really honing in on your day in a present way to find those little tiny pieces of joy. Because if you could see all the little pieces of joy you have in a day that so many people miss, I think that's also like such a cool experiment to do for self, but to say, like, in this hour, where have I found joy? Even if it could have been a challenge, but where did you see joy through that challenge? Or it's just, again, it's really just getting present with yourself and asking those questions. So I love those two. I think those are so important, because mindset, I know it's a buzzword, and I know, but it's real and it's true. And there are different things to reframe your mindset and to bring your mind to a place that, like you said, is it for me or is it happening to me? Or, it's like seeing things from a different perspective and zooming out, I think a lot of times is really helpful with the whole mindset. And then joy. I think joy is so overlooked, because there's a difference between joy and happy, because happy is, an instant gratification of like, I don't know, going through Starbucks, getting a drink, and you're happy for 10 seconds, but that doesn't really last. So the joy really has to be soul searching. It has to be something, you know, like I find joy, right? Like when my kids are going off to do something and they come in to see me to give me a small hug before they leave, like it just reminds me of how grateful and that brings me joy. When people
Mm-hmm.
call me and tell me, oh my gosh, I found this really awesome swap, or I found like this really worked for me, like that kind of stuff, hearing from other people, that's joy to me. Everybody's
Yeah.
joy looks different, but I just think we forget, like, because you can just run through your day and not even think about those things and just think whatever, it just happened, and you just keep going. And so I think taking the time hourly, every hour, half a day, whatever it looks like for you,
Yeah.
but to really hone in on those things. So thank you so much, because I think people could
Yeah.
really learn from those two tools, and I think it's something they can each try on and see how it feels. So before we wrap up, one of the things I always ask all my guests is for a couple of non-negotiables. So for you, on a daily basis, what are a few, 1, 2, 3 things that are non-negotiable for you to set yourself up so that you have a good day? And a good day,
Um,
meaning, I'm not saying there's no challenges, but just a
yeah.
day in which you enjoy so that your health and wellness stays intact.
So I have cultivated a practice, a daily meditation practice. So it is a non-negotiable for me. I get up. If my kids are with me, I get up, I set my alarm like an hour before I'm going to be waking them up. And I have my little ritual. Like I have my angel cards that I pull, and I do some journaling, and I do a meditation. I have my morning cacao that I drink. So I have this little ritual that helps me just tune in, um, start with that mindset of, you know, like, how am I going to go into this day? And connecting with, for me, like a spiritual practice and a relationship with whatever it is, like God, universe, spirit, source, higher self, like connecting with that. That's my non-negotiable. And then also, I move my body uh, very regularly. I am either teaching like a dance fitness class, or I'm taking somebody's fitness or movement or yoga or Pilates type of class. Like those, moving my body and meditating, I would say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One of the things you just said about like your morning practice and all of that, and like really not that, there might be one or 2 days a month or a year or something where that just doesn't work out because you've got,
Mm-hmm.
something going on, whatever that might be.
Right.
It's being okay that sometimes is going to happen, but
Yeah.
I always called it, the 90-10. It's like 90% of the time you're doing that. And the times, for me at least, and this is what I was going to ask you, is when that doesn't happen, when I'm
Mm-hmm.
not getting my normal, morning routine, which is really setting me up, my day is off for me. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
feel discombobulated. Even if I'm away, I try to do a very small version of it, just because I
Yes.
know that it helps me have a better day. So some people are, might be thinking, oh, that's a lot, it's a lot. I don't have time to do that, And what I'd like to say to that is, again, my method of the 1% shift. It's like, add one small thing in the morning, add,
Exactly. Yeah.
close your eyes and breathe 10 times. And you could do that laying in bed, and say, something nice about yourself before you even put your feet on the ground, and
Right.
start there, and when you start building, and we call it like, piggybacking, you build things off of that. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe when you're brushing your teeth, that's when you have that, quiet conversation with yourself. Or if you're
Right.
talking about finding joy, every time you go to the bathroom, which we do that a couple times a day, think to yourself, get off your phone and think to yourself, oh, where did I find joy so far today? It's like, it's
Mm-hmm.
taking the moments in which you have a split break to add something on that's going to better your health and wellness. So again, it's just a
Yeah.
lot of mindset
And it's
reframing.
yeah, and like what you said, it doesn't, many of us, myself included, had like the black or white, all or nothing type thinking. It was like,
Yes.
I'm either going to,
Do it all.
it used to be about working out. Like I'm either going to
Mhm.
work out for like an hour or two and really go hard, or I'm not going to work out at all. And after I had my kids, once my back started healing, like my time, my availability changed, and what I, had the capacity for
Mhm.
changed. So I was like, oh, I'll do like a 15-minute workout on the trampoline. And so my mindset completely changed as far as that goes, and you can think about it in terms of nutrition. Oftentimes people think like, that's why,
All in, or I'm
yeah,
all
like
out.
you do these
Mhm.
like totally restrictive crash diet things, and then you're back to who you were. So it's like, okay, add in one thing a day that feels like really nourishing and really
Yeah.
yummy and
Yummy and
healthy.
yeah.
And that's it. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yes, absolutely. There has to be some flexibility and to lose some of the
But I think
rigidity.
you're right. And I do think though that that's a big undoing of what we've been taught by society
Totally.
that is acceptable. And so
Totally.
that's a lot of where, where my work happens is
Yes.
really, and for me, seeing people undo some of that stuff is just amazing. It's not a one size fits anything, and what works for you is poison for me, and what works for you definitely doesn't work for me. And the whole thing about the movement, what I try to encourage people to do is find something fun. Like, what did you used to do? What was fun? What is fun
Yeah.
to you?
Yeah.
Because movement it shouldn't be this daunting thing you have to do, because if you have that mindset going in, you're really not getting the benefits of what you're doing. And that whole hard, like go hard or don't go at all, honestly, that is such a myth and a fallacy, because it depends on where are you in life. Are you in menopause? Are you 20? Are you 5? I mean, it just every
Right.
stage is something different, and something is better than nothing. And if you come into something with intention, 15 minutes of something intentional beats out an hour of stress and craziness, going hard. So I think it's just, again, reshifting the way that we look at things that
Yeah.
work for us. So,
I mean,
and it's doable and it's fun.
it's doable. I'll be 49 in November. And most of the movement that I do is dance fitness, because it's fun, because it brings me joy.
Right.
And I love it. And so it's not about like, oh, whatever, like how many calories is this going to burn or it's
Right.
like, it brings me joy. And
Yeah,
yeah.
because you're looking at it differently. And, if you're someone who enjoys going to CrossFit, if you're someone who enjoys going to an F45, great. I mean,
Right.
that's fine. Nobody's saying don't do that. If if you're of a certain age, yes, weight bearing stuff is necessary. It's necessary for your health and wellness. Do you have to lift 250 pounds? Or is it okay to lift 3 pounds and do a certain, yeah, it is. Because again, different things work for different people. So it's finding, again, what works for you. So thank you so much for coming on today. I loved,
You're
love this
welcome.
conversation. And just, if you're looking to follow Amber or to work with Amber, of course, everything will be dropped in the show notes. If you are somebody who is into podcasting, she has a podcast coming.
I'm starting a podcast.
Okay.
I'm writing a book right now, and
Okay.
I have a
Amazing.
deadline. I have a
Okay.
deadline at the end of this month to the
When
publisher.
is your book going to be released?
I don't know, probably in the next several months, I would imagine.
Okay.
It depends on the editing process. So I've got a deadline end of September to turn my draft in to my publisher. And I have a call with her on the 28th. So depending on the editing process. So then once I get that in, I'm going to shift my attention to my podcast.
Great. So I'll drop
all
all of
about
that in. Yeah, I'll drop that all in the show notes. And maybe by the time this recording goes out, your book we'll have a date. So I'll even put that. So we'll add all of that in. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. I really hope as you walk away from today's conversation, you're able to take 1 or 2 things to kind of try on, to experiment with, that might, help to create your 1% shift for today or for the week, or just really within your health. So have a good day, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope that you really liked that episode as much as I did. A few of the takeaways that I wanted to mention was number one, the mind-body connection and how repressed emotions such as anger and anxiety can manifest as physical symptoms and health issues. So exploring this connection and addressing emotional well-being is really crucial for overall health. Number two, self-discovery and authenticity. We talked about how women tend to prioritize others' needs over their own, leading to a disconnect from our authentic selves. And so we talked about rediscovering one's true self and practicing self care as being essential for, again, finding balance in our wellness. We talked a little bit about holistic approach to healing and the importance of being open-minded and exploring holistic approaches when conventional methods fall short. Healing is unique and an individual journey that may require a combination of practices. So don't be afraid to try on a few different things. Number four, embracing growth and change. We talked about holistic health and wellness going beyond just the physical health and including aspects such as relationships, self-discovery, joy, spirituality, and all of them having an importance, being an important part of our growth and change. And sometimes that may even mean, that it might challenge an existing relationship or belief that we might have, but we need to really grow with ourselves. Number five, shifting one's perspective and mindset from seeing challenges as obstacles to viewing them as opportunities for growth can really have a profound impact on our lives. The next one, experiencing joy regularly matters. And we see joy as something deeper and longer lasting than a monetary happiness. And we should connect with activities or experiences that bring us true joy. And we did talk a lot about that. And for each of us, there were different things that we found to be joyful. And so I just want to leave you with one thought, and that is, where are you going to find joy today? Thanks for tuning in today. I loved being here with you. I hope that you got something from today's episode. I'd love to hear what resonated with you. Drop a comment below, and if you feel led to, download the episode and share it with someone you love that needs to hear this message. As we continue to spread the goodness of this podcast, I'd love for you to help us by leaving a review on Apple Podcast or a rate on Spotify. As we increase listeners, we will come up more often when women are searching for podcasts to listen to. To stay connected with me, you can check out my social media pages at Live Life Balanced with Robin. You can check out my website at livelifebalancedwithrobin.com. You can book a discovery call. And if you're looking for a way to get started right now, you can opt in for my new quick guide for the empty nester refresh. You can join my waitlist for my new course, It's Your Time, which is going to be launching soon, which I'm super excited about. And as always, thank you for letting me be part of your day. It truly means a lot that you're allowing me to be on your wellness journey with you. Until next time, find peace, love, and light by breathing, being present, and allowing for all possibilities to happen.